And welcome to this interview for SpeakIn. We have with us Divya Mittal. She's an IAS officer. She's at present the District Magistrate of Mirzapur in Eastern Uttar Pradesh. I'll quickly talk a little bit about myself. My name is Sanjeev Verma. I'm a writer and broadcaster. I have a small boutique consultancy, Lexis Consultants, which specializes in content creation. And a large part of what I do is that I teach writing skills to corporate executives. Business writing, of course, it's not fiction writing or any of that sort of writing, but business writing. So that's a little bit about me, but the focus is entirely on Divya Mittal. So let's start, Divya, by asking you. You've had a very interesting journey. IIT Delhi, then IIM Bangalore. You were a derivatives trader in London, and now you're the district magistrate in Mirzapur. What accounts for this extraordinary journey and the switch that you made from being a derivatives trader to an Indian Administrative Service officer?
Sanjeev, first of all, I'm happy to be here talking with you today. When I was a student, I was a conventionally good student, so I was getting good marks. So I had conventional dreams of every Indian. I wanted to get into good educational institutions, which in my case, because I was interested in maths and physics kind of subjects, it meant engineering. Then I wanted to always be in a corporate job. So I went for my MBA. But during my MBA and all through my journey, there was this little voice inside my head, which kind of told me that I should do something for society or be helpful to people in my country. But I muffled that voice and I went to London for my job. But then I realized that that voice was continuously growing louder. It became like a shout. And even though I was doing very well for myself in London, I was earning very well. I was getting out of turn promotions. But that voice was something that was just wouldn't let me be. So that is when I decided to come back. And that is when, in fact, I started exploring a career in civil services. I didn't have much idea about it before that. Then I came back and prepared, and by God's grace, I did get into. I was an IPS officer before this, so I trained for police service as an after getting through, and then I became an IS officer, and I've had a fairly longest stint now, with almost 10 years into service. And here I am now today as district magistrate of Mirzapur.
And a few years down the line in the IAS, do you think you made the right decision?
Yeah, absolutely. See, any decision, I believe, you can only make based on the information you have till then. So, and if your purpose is clear, you are very okay with any decision that you make. I was very clear that I wanted to do something which is useful for society, which I have been able to do in all these years. And hence, I never regret the decision of leaving my corporate job or London or anything, because I've had a very satisfying stint in the service till now.
Since you had a taste of both worlds, so to speak, it would be interesting for us to hear you talk about the pros and cons of both careers, a corporate career as well as a career in the civil services.
Okay, so both are like chalk and cheese. So I don't see how we can compare the two. But to answer your question, a corporate career is very, in many ways, especially the one I was in, which is trading. It is a very individualistic career. So the individualistic goals of like success or money or promotions are way better there. But so again, another pro of that of any corporate career is that it is way more meritocratic and way more, so you get more incentives in those careers compared to, so when I say incentives, it's more like materialistic incentives compared to a career in civil services where as a con, I would say that everybody has the same career progression, whether you are good or sometimes even if you're not so good, which is flies in the face of, let's say, meritocracy. But the pro is that every day when you are in your job, till now at least I can say, the number of people you're able to help or not even help, as in impact their lives in so many meaningful ways, that it is the satisfaction I have felt is unparalleled. Again, it's a very person to person thing. Similarly, when you see that you have been instrumental in some way in empowering them to improve their own lives, so it's not like just doling out some, something to them, but it's more of them getting empowered. So seeing that and before your eyes, and them improving their own lives is very, very satisfying, I think.
It'd be interesting to talk to hear you talk about highlights of these 9 years. 9 years it's been, or has it been more?
Yeah, 9 years. 9 years.
So if you could talk about some of the high points and maybe some low points too, if you like.
Okay, so I'll give you a brief roundup of what I've been up to all these years. So I started my training after my in my Masuri training. I was ranked as the best officer in the batch based on the academic and the extracurricular performance. So I won something called the Bamba Wale Award. So started with that, and I got various opportunities. Like when I was in Delhi, I was selected to present in front of Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji. So those. Then I did my training in Sitapur, where there were like many, so I wouldn't get into specifics, but it was a very satisfying learning experience for me in Sitapur. Then I was SDM in Meerut. Meerut is a very used to be, especially at the time, very volatile district. So as an SDM, we were supposed to be completely on the ground, and sometimes I was standing on the road many times. In fact, at 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to persuade people to do something or the other. So it was very interesting because you are just there in your own authority and trying to convince those people to do something that you think is right. So that happened. Then I went to Gonda as CDO. So there I unearthed a kind of a scam that was going on. It was a very low level scam, so done by local functionaries. So what they were doing was they were diverting the houses which were meant for poor to rich people, and there was like Aadhaar based fraud involved. It was a fraud basically. So somehow I came to know of it because I was during my public interaction, someone from the public told me about it. And then we had a major crackdown on that. And the crackdown resulted, so there were lots of FIRs and lots of action was taken by the administration. And it resulted in actually more than 2,000 people returning our money back to us. So they said, please don't take action on us and we will give you your government money back. And then we were able to give that to the poor people. It gave us a lot of goodwill with the people. Secondly, so at the time, Swachh Bharat mission was going on. So as CDO Gonda, we registered Gonda's name in India Book of Records for constructing the highest number of toilets in the least number of hours. So it was called Mission Batte. So there was 32,000 toilets. So that happened. After that, in between I had my babies also, and then I went to. After that, I went to Kanpur in industries. Then I went as a VC of Bareilly Development Authority. Again, that was a very, very interesting role. So you may have heard of, so we made a Jhumka Tiraha, because Bareilly, at least in popular conversations, is known for Bareilly ka Jhumka, even though it's not really related to the place as such. So we constructed a huge Jhumka on a Tiraha as a tourist attraction. But what was interesting about that was that we did not use government money for it. So we, asked people to contribute, and they did. There are big institutions also in Bareilly, and we have this beautiful place, which is like a interesting selfie point now. So that happened, and apart from that, that is like it is like things which are more visible. But as part of BDA, I was doing a lot of town planning. There were a lot of societies which we improved substantially. So people were living in not so good conditions because of some hassle. So we did that. So that was again very interesting. Then I became a district magistrate of Sant Nagar, which is when was the COVID time. So COVID was a very, very challenging time. And so by some, I would say, stroke of luck, we had prepared the hospital. The first wave was already over. So there was a hospital which was supposed to be operationalized. So we operationalized that hospital, even though there was no COVID at the time, which was very lucky, because eventually that hospital, which was supposed to be a very low hospital, it's L2 hospital, but it operated as a super specialty hospital at the time of like the second wave. And luckily we were also able to manage all the oxygen supplies. And it was a very satisfying experience, because we got a lot of what is called ashirwad from people. Even now people come and say, yes, you worked hard in COVID, and it probably saved lives. So it's there's no better feeling than even like feeling that you were somehow instrumental in that. And there were other various things that we did in Sant Nagar. I'm going to keep it short because it's like 9 years is a long time to be summarizing in like 2 minutes. But yeah, now I'm a district magistrate in Mirzapur. My immediate challenge was I landed here just before the Narata started. And there is a very famous big temple of Vindhyavasini Mata here, which is a very prestigious temple. So people from all over the country come here during Navratri. There's a mela for darshan. So that was my immediate challenge, and it was a very satisfying time that the entire team galvanized around the idea of giving a good mela, and we had by God's grace, Mata's grace, we had a very good mela this year. So in a very, very small nutshell, that's what I've been up to.
Okay, so in your initial years in the civil services, and these are still your initial years, 9 years, you have a direct connect with the people, which I thought, which is quite obviously very satisfying. You're able to deal with people's problems directly. But as you rise in the hierarchy, that connection with people becomes a little more remote, and you are then responsible more for policy making or policy administration. So how do you look at the years to come? Would you miss the connect that you have with people right now?
So the way the civil services is structured, and the whole idea is that we are in the field to learn the nitty-gritties of the field, so that we are not disconnected as policymakers with what is happening on the ground. So the more you interact with people, the more you go on the ground and you sort of do hands-on work, you learn more. So that is my phase right now. But like you rightly said, eventually the idea is to have policymakers who have the practical knowledge but are able to formulate policies which will then be implemented on the field. So to answer your question, yes, I will absolutely miss the people interaction, even though there is people interaction even in senior positions, but the kind of daily interaction you have with people, will visiting the villages and seeing the problems, I'm going to miss that. But I'm hoping that that will be like the next phase in life, and it will be hopefully as satisfying as it has been for me till now.
Now, since the focus of our conversation is civil services as a career, in the days that people like me were growing up, which is several decades ago, if you came from a middle-class family and your parents wanted you to become either a doctor or an engineer or a civil services officer, and if you failed to do any of those things, then they set up a small business for you, which you probably ran into the ground. But of course, times have changed, and now this whole corporate career versus civil services career is neck and neck, with an edge perhaps a career in the civil services in the sense that, a corporate career because of the compensation issues and so on. So how do you see this transformation, and do you think civil services is still in 2022 an attractive career for young people?
Okay, I think you've summarized it really well. And I think choice is always good. I don't think it's a good idea for people to get into civil services just because they have nothing else to do. And it's like even in your life in general, if you have more choice of anything, you can choose a better option for yourself. So you're right that today there are so many options, right, from being a writer to being a cinematographer to a blogger or anything for that matter, and which means that people can explore their real passion. So civil services is a good career, excellent career, coveted career for people who want to be in the social space. Even in the social space, which is now called the impact space. In fact, there are lots of private companies. In fact, some of them are own like very close friends who are doing excellent work in the field. So, the way I look at it is, it's very good that people don't have this pressure of necessarily, if you become an IAS officer, you are, coveted in society, and otherwise you considered to be a second rank person. It's not the case anymore. So people who actually want to be in the services are coming in. So it's very good, I think. And but yes, the civil services is not a career for everyone, which is like as a writer, for instance, you're a writer, you would agree, even though everyone can write, be better at it, but it's not a career which will suit everyone. So people should pick their careers based on their interests and their aptitude, is what I feel.
And one of the challenges that occurs to me for a civil servant is this challenge of having to maintain neutrality. So you are an arm of the executive, uh, but how do you maintain neutrality? There are oftentimes things that you're required to do as a DM, or later on as a undersecretary or whatever, deputy secretary. You're required to do things which you may not necessarily agree with. So how do you maintain neutrality?
Okay, so there are two aspects to it. So one is a policy. So if there's a policy which the government has decided, government of the day, you personally may or may not agree with the policy, but as an executive, you are supposed to implement that policy, which I think is fine. So I may not personally agree with something, but if it's a law of the land, like the written law, then you should and you must execute that law. But within that, there are things. So if let's say, in the implementation, there is neutrality or impartiality, as you're saying. So treating the opposition and the ruling people or supporters in the same way, let's say in development, or if there is a dispute between the two, maintaining a neutral outlook, that I think is not only required of you, but it is absolutely essential. So, and I can't give you like a shortcut to how to maintain that. I think it's more of which I always say, you always know what is the right thing to do. It's just that, the gap isn't actually doing that. So that is something that you only you can close. And I think people are more sort of I would say afraid of the unknown, that if I do this, then I don't know, political executives will get angry with me and God knows what. But I have been it's like self praise, and you are free to agree or disagree with that, but I've been completely neutral. In fact, some of my outcomes also, if you see in my districts, or talk to people of opposition in my districts, they'll tell you that we love her as a district magistrate because she's been fair. And to all credit to the political executive, they have no one has ever come and told me, why are you being neutral? So I have never felt that pressure. In fact, I would tell you that in the services and as in life, all you can do is keep defining your character. So if the political people know that, okay, Divya Mittal is this kind of an officer, she is, having Divya Mittal would mean, let's say, XYZ things. Let's say I'm, again, like blowing my own trumpet, but efficiency and integrity and neutrality, then they'll use me in places where those things are required. So, administration, you can imagine administrating a country as diverse and complex as India requires all kinds of people. So it's not that you will be, reprimanded or in some way, held in lower something if you show character. It's actually absolutely not that.
As a journalist, once many years ago in the late 90s, I think it was, I visited Raebareli, which is obviously Indira Gandhi's constituency, and later on Sonia Gandhi's, and so on. I met the district magistrate at that time, Anurag Srivastav, I think was his name. He was 5 or 6, maybe 7 years into the job, and he already had 14 transfers. And what he said to me is that I keep my bag ready, and whichever the government is, if they want me to do something which I'm loath to do, I'll push back. So how do you expect? I mean, there are later on in life, if there are situations where you strongly, in ethical and moral terms, you disagree with something that you're required to do, how do you deal with that, you think?
I think that is, see, transfer is, I personally feel it's not even, like it's the least of troubles, because like if you mentally prepared for something, which we are anyways all the time, so that is not a problem at all. If ever there is a situation where I'm supposed to do things which I'm absolutely loath to do, I would even leave the service for that matter. So, it's not something, see, all these things are, I personally feel, the means to an end. If I'm sitting on, let's say, I'm just take DM because I'm a DM right now. If I'm sitting on the district magistrate's chair and I cannot do justice for the people, then what is the use of me sitting on this chair? I would rather leave the chair than like compromise to an extent which will, give me sleepless nights or something like that. And I'm absolutely clear about that. So, by God's grace, I've never, in fact, initially I was having, like, I had the maximum number of transfers in my batch, but now the tenures have become fairly stable. So even if you people don't like you, somehow you just end up like, the tenures have prolonged. So, but that's my answer to it. I mean, I will not do something which I am not comfortable doing. That's it. And that has been my stance right through, like, my childhood to the corporate career to this, because it's just a way of life. It's just the way you are as a person. So no price is big enough to pay, even if I can call it a price for what you believe in, is what I feel.
Absolutely. So tell me, Divya, you have any role models in the profession, in civil services? People that you look up to, people that perhaps inspired you to come to the civil services?
people who inspired me before I came into the services were less than now, because at the time, like I said, I didn't know, too many people. So it was used to be like those, biggies like T.N. Seshan ji or Kiran Bedi ji. So you've heard about those people as children and you feel inspired by their actions. But now, having gone through life, I would say not even like the services, I feel anybody who has a goal in life and who's honestly trying to achieve that goal could be a project, that goal could be doing something for the people, or it could be getting you independence, or it could be a corporate thing. So whether it is Gandhi ji or completely opposite, Bhagat Singh ji, both of them are my role models. Similarly, Narayan Murthy ji, who has set up Infosys, would be a role model. And apart from that, I would say, like, I'll just give you two very small examples. So if you see a teacher or a principal of a Sarkari school, of a government school, who's doing that, one step extra and creating models, small models out of, cardboard for their kids to learn better, he's a role model. I go and get inspired seeing those people. In fact, in the Mela, there was a Safai Karmi who I was like taking rounds, and so there was this, van of after cleaning that was going of kuda, and there was some piece of trash which got dropped on the road. So this guy runs back, and not because we were taking it down. He could have easily left. He jumps off from the van, goes, picks up that piece of trash and puts it back. I mean, I was so inspired. So I commended him and I felicitated him. But that's not the point. It is inspiring for me as a person to see these people. So that's my answer. So it's, and also I feel that one person, if he's inspiring you in one sphere of life, doesn't mean that he's a perfect person. So he could have a lot of negative qualities and you may not agree with all the things that he thinks, and I think that should not deter us from imbibing the good qualities that that person had, or the vision, or anything that you're inspired about that person.
One person that you didn't talk about, and in my little bit of research that I did, what you said on social media and so on, is Subhash Chandra Bose. So will you talk about him?
Absolutely. So I wrote a post about him. So I think it's the same for him. The way he was dedicated to the cause. He was ready to, like he said, and you feel, if you, in fact, the post was, I put down little speeches, the links of speeches. So I wanted everyone to hear those. You feel that, yes, this person was actually willing to die for the country. So you don't get those old speeches of a lot of people. He's willing to go to outside countries, take the help. Again, you may or agree or disagree with some of the things that he did, but he is an absolutely inspiring figure. Again, like I said, he had a goal and he was willing to achieve that, and he was willing to work his, put in all the work and blood, sweat, toil to achieve those things. So he's an absolutely phenomenal person and a very inspiring figure.
Are there, Divya, aspects of a civil services career that you could change, that are on your list of things that if you wish you could, you would change? If so, what are they and why?
Yes, absolutely. Like any career, I think civil services needs a lot of improvement. And to give you very briefly what I think, one is, I think we need a lot more meritocracy than there is. So, which is difficult to achieve because administration, see, in a corporate career, it's very clear. So, whoever has helped the bottom line, the maximum, is like the best performer, kind of thing, let's say. Of course, there are other facets to that as well. But in administration, so who's the best collector? It's very difficult for you to actually like judge in that sense. I mean, it's not a popularity contest that you go ask people, or even an election for that matter. But we should work towards making a metric for merit to outshine, to shine out, for that matter. So in the career progression also, so right now it's like anybody gets promoted based on only years of service, which is not necessarily the best way to motivate bright people, or in fact demotivate, or discourage bad behavior for that matter. So meritocracy is something that I would definitely want to be there in the service more than what it is. It already is. No, I wouldn't like to say that there isn't, but there is scope for more. Secondly, specialization. So we are a service of generalists, and generalists are very much required. It's not like we are not, but eventually at later stages in the career, I think people should get roles based on their expertise, which they may have developed in the field. So someone would have worked in education more, or they should be given a chance to work in the field that they feel is close to their heart. even in later years, or people go out or go and study in certain fields. So specialization is something I think the country would also very much benefit if people who've had actual grassroots exposure to be specializing into the field of their choice, and then working in that those are two things I would like improvement in.
Sure. Generalists versus technocrats, that's a classic debate. What do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of the two? Should technocrats rule the roost, or you are a generalist, so should do generalists approach every issue with a little bit of common sense more than anything else, you think?
See, I don't think common sense is a quality which is reserved for the generalist. I think a technocrat, and I'm an engineer myself, so well, technocrats are fairly rich in common sense as well. See, even in the corporate career, so you would see. I think this debate is slightly should be looked at in a broader way. So I worked in a bank. So I'll give you an example of Deutsche Bank. In Deutsche Bank, the CEO, I mean, or any other bank for that matter, the CEO is not the person who's the best trader, even though the trader is someone who's making the most money for the bank. But it could be a salesperson, because salesperson knows a little bit of trading, but he gets the clients, which is more business. So the point is that the person who should lead is a person who can assimilate all the aspects and take the project or whatever you're trying to do forward. So if it's a project which has only technology in it, let's say involved, then definitely a technocrat should be leading that project. But if it's a project which requires technology, and it requires like managing various stakeholders and a complex environment in which we feel the generalist skills are more adept, and it's a very person specific thing. So if I am an engineer, but if today you tell me, it's a uh, very technical project, so it's a teamwork. So all these elements should be there, and the leader should be the one who can lead the team the best. He could be a technocrat, he could be a bureaucrat, he could be whatever XYZ. So we have to open our minds. We should not be very closed and put it in silos that no, journalists are the best to lead because they have XYZ skills, and technocrats are best because they have XYZ skills. Why can't we look at it at a person to person level? So I don't think a company or even for your corporate trainer, I don't think that's the way we look at it in the company. We just say, okay, who's the best person to do the job? And that's the way we should have in the country also. I don't know if I'm like, do you think I'm like making any sense?
No, absolutely. You're making eminent sense. We've discussed this, Divya, and we towards the end of the conversation now. We've discussed it at various points, but is the Indian administrative service still a coveted career for young people in India? If you were to make a pitch to a young person, young, bright person who's, let's say, in college or even school, class 11 or 12, what pitch would you make to this young person for the IAS or IFS or IPS for that matter?
Okay, so what I would like to say to everyone through you is that civil services is a career where you will be making a lot of sacrifices. I'll start with this because you'll be living away from your friends and probably family, and you'll be living in places which are remote, and you may not have the life which you had, imagined, like a very plush kind of life with lots of restaurants around you or other sources of entertainment. You will not have those things. But if despite of that you want to serve your country, and if despite of that you want to work for the people, then this is the best job for you. And you want to be in a job, this is the best job for you. So you first look at the negatives, I would say, and then you decide that, like I said, if this that little voice inside you is loud enough for you to not be able to ignore it, then this is the best job. And trust me, if you come into the services and if you do the best, to the best of your capability, there is, I think you will get so much of satisfaction that I don't think you'll in fact miss at all the things that you're leaving behind, is what I would like to tell people, young people.
Wonderful. On that upbeat note, thank you very much, Divya. It's been a wonderful experience talking to you. All the best.
Thank you, Sajeev. Thanks to the entire team.